Okay, well, that's Steve, and that's Al, and this is our episode 1 of Brunch with Steve and Al. Might come up with a more creative name later, but
I kind of like Brunch with Al.
Or Brunch with
because
Al.
it's reminiscent of the movie that I have to still see in its entirety called what is that? Dinner with Andre.
right, Dinner with Andre.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I was thinking like Breakfast with Al or Brunch with Al or Brunch with Al and Steve, whatever. We'll figure out something. But this, I'll let Al tell you.
Yeah, so basically, we're just gonna have our usual chat over lunch. We're at a pizza establishment at the moment, and it'll be heavily politics, probably. Maybe some music, maybe some talk about AI. That's always a big one, and we'll just see where it takes us.
Right, whatever current events might come along as well, but mostly probably rest on politics and current affairs of sorts. And and we do this. We've been doing this every Sunday for well over a year now.
Yeah, maybe close to a year and a half.
And I just always felt it would be interesting to see, what our conversations would look like to others, just considering that how animated they can get at times, I guess, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
So, is there a topic you want to go off of? Just,
well, the topic I proposed earlier was how bad did things get last week was the question. And in terms of what I was worried about, things actually didn't get that bad. The legislation and the news, the headlines were bad, but what I was specifically talking about were pricing. Pricing, with the exception of eggs, which are hovering around $6 or $7 a carton, it has still not jumped appreciably yet.
Yeah, I think things got, in my estimation, things got really bad in a bunch of different things that happened in the course of the week. As far as pricing is concerned, my take is it's too early to know anything, and there's so many determining factors when it comes to economics that I can't think of anything that Trump could have done in the last few weeks that would have made any measurable difference that you can actually point a finger at.
Right.
So to me, it's a non-issue until later, but I could be wrong. Like something he did might have affected something, but I don't think so. Because sometimes, these markets can go up and down just simply based on speculation, and anything he said or did or could have an effect. I don't know. I haven't looked into it enough. It's really not I'm not worried about that right now. There's bigger fish to fry than chickens, scrambled eggs to fry, whatever the hell. than this topic, in my personal opinion. Some people, I guess it's easily brought up because, well, Trump, some of these guys did it based on economic factors, and of course my take has always been that's absolute nonsense. There's no, that is just a front for people who don't want to acknowledge the fact that they're a racist bigot and they're misogynistic. It was simply just a way for them to convince themselves that, to vote for Trump, even though the evidence is so clear that he's a criminal and that he's a racist bigot. So, yeah, the only way they can justify what they did is economics. And any other time a Republican or anyone else does anything with economics, they don't care. It doesn't matter to them until it's an excuse to vote for the person who does what they want. All right, so now we have a pizza here, jalapeno and pepperoni, and this is probably the best pizza in town in my estimation. This is the way I see it.
East Side Pies.
Yeah. Best pizza in town. If you like New York, Chicago style, and it's hard to really find good pizza in Austin that I like. So this is the
I'm not as particular, but he knows his stuff. He's from Chicago, so.
Yeah. At any rate, so where were we?
I was going to make the comment about apparently Trump did make an exception for people to come into the country, but it's for Russians. Or
yeah.
not Russian. Was it? No, not Russians. It's white people fleeing South Africa.
Well, once again, it has to be the appropriate people. It's not a matter of immigrants coming here or whether they're legal or illegal. It's what color are they?
Yep.
Because
that's the point,
look at what they're rating. It's not look, it's not criminal like flop houses or what do they call that? Where they sit and do drugs all day. Like,
the opium dens and stuff.
well,
yeah.
it's not
Well,
opium,
no, right,
but
right,
you know,
I'm trying to think.
trap house. They're not going to the trap house
Yeah.
looking for criminals. They're going to like the work, which is funny because here the guys are not supposed to be paying taxes or contributing, and you go into where they work,
And
which is laughable.
The scarier thing is how supposedly they're bringing back the death penalty.
Bringing it back.
The federal debt on the
Oh,
federal
federal
level,
level.
not on individual states. I mean, Texas never got rid of it, but on a federal level, and extending it to non-violent crimes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, well, according to
One step
Trump
closer
it
to the
does,
ovens,
but,
yeah. So, no surprise. Not
Yeah.
even a surprise at all, as far as I'm concerned. But okay, so I guess the next
The big
topic-
elephant in the room, or not even full
What is
elephant.
this
Yeah.
thing's in the way. This thing's in
Yeah.
the way. All right.
Would be the Doge kids. Let's call them the Doge kids. Can we do that?
The incel. I don't know. It's probably.
Well, I mean, they're 20 something, so
Right.
I mean,
But look, you know what? It's reminiscent. Look, I don't think there's an adult alive who would work for that clown doing what they're doing right now. And somebody brought up a good point. And I think you probably know what we're talking about here, as far as Trump allowing Elon Musk to go into the computer systems of the
Treasury.
Treasury and monkey around, and nobody knows what the hell they're doing. And the question is if they are legitimately looking for fraud or waste, why would they need computer programmers? Why wouldn't they bring in auditors? Like,
Because they're not. That's,
Right.
that's the obvious answer. But
yeah, so you might want to squeeze in.
sorry, I'm just looking for my pizza. What scares me on this one is that the Republicans, in theory, should be just as scared as everybody else, because this has no oversight really from anybody who's been elected to anything at this point.
Yeah, and the funniest thing is too is I've seen some people. I just got another pizza.
So pineapple and anchovy.
I went with the classic jalapeno and pepperoni. So, anyways, we were talking about Musk and his little group of Hitler youth. So, I was saying to Al, look, he couldn't get a freaking adult to do this crap. He can only get impressionable young guys who think he's a hero to do this nonsense, because they're not legitimately doing anything. And I equated it to this. It would be like giving the bank robber the combination to the safe. It's like he's literally the one who, him and his cronies and all the other business guys are the ones who have siphoned trillions to tens of trillions of dollars over the course of the last 50 years. Somewhere in the estimated like $50 trillion range has been siphoned out of the middle class into the top 1%. So yeah, giving them the keys to the to the safe is freaking laughable, because it's like OJ looking for the killer. It's freaking ridiculous.
Well, but the OJ thing triggers on exactly what I was going to say, which is you literally have the richest man in the world trying to take money away from some of the poorest people in our country.
Right.
I mean, that
And
sums
where did he
it
get
up
that money?
perfectly.
Where did he get all that money? A lot of it was government grants, tax cuts that he shouldn't have. He wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for government money from the United States and globally. So for him to look for waste is laughable, absolutely fucking laughable. He was supposed to help us, get these rockets to the moon and all this stuff. He hasn't done anything he promised. We've been much better off giving that money to NASA and letting them do it, instead of him taking it and putting it in his pocket. So, which is what he did. And now he's the richest man on earth because of government aid, because he would have went bankrupt otherwise in the early 2000s. He was bailed out. He's been bailed out his entire life. He brought his way into everything. So to think that he's going to go find fraud, like I said, is just absolutely laughable to any respectable human being who has a capital brain. But hell, what are we talking about? America. I've read this stat. I don't know how accurate it is, but something like 60% of the population has like a, what is it, sixth grade
yeah.
reading level or something. Yeah, I'm sure it's pretty close.
Between 50 to 60, yeah. I've, over the years, it's varied between 5th grade and 6th grade, and between 50 to 60. But
we're
it's
talking
about
about a
the
bunch
same.
of pre-high school level kids. When you're dealing with half the population.
Which goes way too far towards explaining way too much. Yeah.
Right. So once again, it's very misinformed, very impressionable, very disturbed people, not understanding what's going on. And because if you just look at history and what Hitler did, and you're paying attention to everything that's happened in the last couple of years, you will see, it's been happening since the 1970s, but as far as like how it's escalated, with one individual being Trump being the puppet master, or he's not the puppet master, but he's sort of a puppet in a sense, but he's the figurehead of this fascist takeover, oligarchical takeover that's more than evident now in Project 2025, which is being implemented and has been orchestrated over the course of 50 years of completely dismantling the U.S. government and taking it over. So a new level of divine right of kings. And, it's just the rhetoric itself. When Trump says something like, I was ordained by God when I survived the assassination, things like that. It's all just ridiculous nonsense.
Oh, and the Project 2025 reminded me, I forget what the statistic was. It was 35 something. It was either 35 executive orders or 35%, but it was basically the amount of stuff that Trump did in the last week or two that comes straight out of the 2025 playbook. And we knew that was going to happen, but then on top of that, you've got one of the primary writers of the whole agenda, who has just now been nominated. I forget whether he's been accepted or not, but at least nominated to one of these high cabinet positions. So if any of you watching for a second believe this crap about there's no connection to him, I don't know. Yeah, probably not. Hopefully nobody watching is that stupid, but just, wow.
Right. Yeah. And I'm sure tossing out all these adjectives about people and these descriptors of stupid and moronic and fascist is going to get a lot of responses for certain people who come across wherever social media this ends up on. All I gotta say to anybody who's got anything negative or derogatory to say or anything, F off, you're an idiot, I don't care, I'm done.
I will say one more thing to that, and I've noticed it more just over the last couple of days than I haven't.
We're not responding, you're gonna get blocked, go away.
But just
let the adults talk.
Almost every last troll that I've come across recently, and it doesn't matter how minor the post is, I mean, some of it's relatively non-political, but every negative comment that I've gotten has been from somebody who has no profile. They're like a troll in the classic sense.
Right. Because at this point, look, if you're willing to engage in a reasonable discussion, I doubt you voted for Trump or have anything to say. If you have something to say that might be, reasonable, then possibly take a look at it. But otherwise, no. The discussion's over. The discussion's been over. There's two things people like that understand at this point, and that's ridicule and violence. And they're violent, and they might get a dose of it, as that guy said.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part, because, you see these posts and then people put laughing emoji, and I think that's laugh it up. And you're going to be laughing when you take it too far, and the guillotines come out and they go Dresden on your Nazi ass. And that's what it's going to come to if it keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. You keep on bullying and bullying and bullying, and they're going to turn around and punch you back. So, and they're not going to be. It's not going to be what they think it is.
Yeah, because
they're going to be in the minority, and they're going to get their asses whooped. So.
Because Luigi was the first example, even though he was a Trump supporter, but he was still, in my mind, the first example.
Well, who knows what that guy was?
But his actions, regardless of
Right.
what we find out about
I think he was a
him
little
as a person.
confused, though.
Yeah.
With how he was, but he was certainly confused about certain ideas.
Right, but if you just look at what he did in the manifesto that we wrote about.
It was almost, if a reasonable mind would have concluded the opposite of voting for Trump. But,
Yeah.
but point being, yeah, fascists fuck off. Nothing to say yet. I don't think there's any reasonable person at this juncture who's got any basis in reality to pose any counter argument that makes any sense. Now, as far as like our observations and critiques and opinions, yeah, of course they're under scrutiny and you can say whatever you want. But the raw basic facts of what's happening, no, there's no dispute.
Pretty
Now,
much
to the extreme level that, as far as the veracity of what are the points that we're making, maybe it's going a little hyperbolic, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, it's hard to tell. That's the problem. And increasingly, it's obvious that either directly or indirectly, certain news stories and opinions and whatever are getting squashed down. Which the logical conclusion of that is that things are probably even worse than we're seeing, not better.
Possibly.
Yeah.
For the most part, I can't say that, in any real way outside of being like my nervous system being deregulated every day. I hear something new, dysregulated. I can't say there's any direct effect on my life. I can still go out and go for my walk. I can take my photos. I can listen to music. I can go to the movies. I can do all those things that I normally do. Hell, I'm a white dude. I can get away with fucking anything. But at some point, it's going to disrupt everyone's lives. And unfortunately, right now, there's a lot of people who are getting wrapped up in it, directly affected today. And anybody with half a freaking level of basic human decency has to feel some kind of trouble, like anxiety about this.
Well, and to your point, I mean, yeah, middle-aged white guy, middle income, so not immediately, obviously affected, but I don't currently have a revenue stream, so I'm living off my wife, and her job is helping people who are basically lower income. So, and all of this is affecting them, which affects her, which affects my standard of living. So, it does come around full circle pretty fast.
But I'll add to, Al has worked his whole life as a master's.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's not like
it's not like I've been a bum forever.
He's not
been a year or two.
He's not living off his life.
Yeah.
No, he's kind of framed it. He's been looking for a job for a little bit.
Yeah.
So still trying to get some income, some revenue streams going. Not, what it sounded like there. So
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. So nobody gets confused. Because I can, the same thing happened to me. I had to, walk. There's a whole story behind this, but I just started up again, and things are picking up for what I'm doing. So hopefully, I'll be back in action in that regard. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's not about me and Al. Like, we're probably not going to starve. I don't know. Hopefully, but
we might have to do this less often.
But, yeah. We'll find a way. But it's incredibly disheartening to watch a potentially great nation implode. One that was on the trajectory for improvement, that was on the trajectory for advancing society, advancing democracy instead of diminishing it, instead of retracting it. One that was being progressive in terms of social order and inclusion. One that was giving a middle class, a raising middle class, and now it's been completely and utterly destroyed over the course of 50 years. since the 1970s and 80s, and everything dismantled, a lot of deep-seated racism and bigotry and of all sorts, and homophobia and all those nasty things that are part of the human condition that have just been exasperated, and all those evil impulses that people have been, all that fear mongering has brought this to this point that we're at today, and it's nothing new in history. So
Yeah. I was going to make some kind of comment about social media. Well, obviously, it goes back to Musk in terms of Twitter. I mean, I got on Twitter in 2011, and I've been off and on using it pretty heavily up until a couple months ago when I got off, because I just couldn't stand the idea that I was in any way, shape, or form assisting Musk. And then on top of that, anybody that I actually care about either left the platform or also can be found on other platforms. So there was nothing keeping me there. And the saddest part of all that is that I'm starting to see the same thing happening with Facebook, with some of the dumbassery that Zuckerberg did. My wife just recently reminded me that he did this thing. I don't know if it hit you or not, but it hit me. I don't think it hit Rosie, ironically enough, but it hit a bunch of people where it flipped a switch where all of a sudden I was following Trump, not Ivanka, sorry.
You were following?
Yeah, it
Come
did this
on.
to. No, I'm serious. I looked in my following, and like the recent follows were Trump.
I saw something weird like that too, but it wasn't.
No, it was real.
No, there was some stuff I know I didn't.
Oh, okay, yeah. Trump, JD, and Melania. And to make sure that it didn't flip back, I blocked them all.
Yeah.
But the idea that I mean, there had to have
Right.
Zuckerberg had to have approved that on some level.
There's something weird going on too, because I'm getting like Musk feeds that are not your negative press.
Yeah,
And I'm like, where is this coming from? No algorithm that has any bearing in reality would give me this shit.
Yeah, and I've got non-political posts that just aren't getting seen by people who normally comment on them. And they're people, and I'm talking about people that are still on my feed that are still commenting on stuff. So it's the whole thing is. And then the other thing I'm saying is that I've got friends and family that are saying, I just can't put up with this anymore. I'm, maybe Blue Sky, maybe whatever. I'm not. They're still on right now, but they're like, I'm holding on by a thread.
Maybe this is a good segue then into like Blue Sky, because I know I have an account and I got it when it first came out, but I got to dig that up and figure out how to get back in there. But let's talk about that next. But I'm gonna get something to drink.
Yeah, and